Good afternoon, Millie Gibbons. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you, Victor. Thanks for having me.
I am extremely grateful because the nature of your search for the right aptitude to merge variety and prowess towards the next echelon of characters is molding a figurative clock that ticks from yesterday into this particular moment. How are you doing today?
Wow, that was cool. I'm good. I think I've made the mistake of using a spinny chair, so I'm going to try and not get too excited. But I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Millie Gibbons, the chair is spinning and your performances are sprinting from different timelines. A clear sign indicating that your next moves are the boldest steps from the truth of the Californian valleys to the layers of Black Mountain Road.
Yep.
I would love, Millie Gibbons, to discuss about that upcoming short film. Can you tell us a little bit more about that 748-second piece of art, directed and coming directly from a real-life event experienced by Parker Hendrick Croft?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. We're excited to tell you more about it. Firstly, I actually should take note that I actually haven't seen the full cut yet. So I feel a little bit like I've been left in the dark, which I'm quite excited for because it means I'm less in my head and the element of surprise is exciting. But so I think we shot the movie back in October 2024 now. It was honestly a phenomenal experience working with Parker and Nolan on this project. As you said, influenced by Parker's real life events of actually running over a dog and dealing with the dread of what comes from a scenario such as that. It was the process itself was honestly, now I'm thinking about it, it was all such a blur because we were very much like in the moment, and the way that we worked, it was super cool because it was a very collaborative process. And Parker really allowed us the freedom of like bringing in our own, thoughts and stuff to the table. So it was great working with such like an actor's director. It was a fantastic experience. It was really cool. I think, so going back to the auditioning process, I originally auditioned for something else that they're both working on. I found them through Actors Access, which is an online casting website. It was interesting. They called me up and they were like, yeah, you happy to do a chemistry read? And I was like, yeah, sure, like that would be great. We did the chemistry read, it was great. And then a few weeks later, they were like, oh, by the way, we're actually not going to be going further forward with this project at the moment, putting this on hold. But there is something else that we'd like you to read if you'd be interested. And they sent me the script for Liars. And I read through it and I thought it was super interesting and I wanted to know more. So we got on the phone, we chatted, and we did another chemistry read with Nolan, and it just worked and it was great. I might have told them a little white lie that I was based in LA, which I'm not. I'm actually in New York. So when they came around to telling me like, oh, you got the job basically, I was kind of like, okay, I am in New York, but I'm more than happy to get myself over to LA. And they were super, super understanding about that, which was really cool. And then going over to LA, I'm not really familiar with LA itself. So that was kind of an adventure in itself, from where I'm from, I'm from the middle of nowhere in the English countryside. So flying from New York itself to LA was pretty cool, and working with someone like Nolan Gould and Parker Croft, it was definitely a huge turning point in my career. But going over to LA, landing in LA and meeting the boys and doing rehearsals and meeting the puppet, the dog puppet, that was an experience. I'm sure you've seen photos, and I mean, you've seen the movie, so that was interesting. They didn't tell me at the beginning. They were like, "Oh yeah, like, what do you think of the dog?" And I was like, "Oh, it's very realistic." And they were like, "It's real." And I was like, "Oh God." So this dog puppet that they ended up using was some like taxiderm dog that they'd found, and they'd managed to turn into this mechanical like masterpiece, which is kind of sounds a bit wrong to say about a dead dog, but it was very real. And working on that set, it was a very much, I don't know, we worked on this basis. There was a lot of spontaneity involved, and we did a couple exercises on set which were really effective. And I don't know, it was interesting because I feel like I walked away from set and I was left with a lot of surprises working with Nolan in the moment, but like walking away, I feel like I never really had that full grasp of Abby, my character, which I kind of like because I think she is just a very mysterious character. And I think it kind of, my confusion with connecting to her, like kind of worked for like what was happening in the moment, because I think she goes through this like identity crisis in the moment, like in the film. I don't know how much I'm supposed to say in case people haven't seen it, but I don't want to give any spoilers away. But I think the like moral corrupt like thing that she's dealing with surprises her, because she considers herself to be a very honorable, honest, righteous sort of person, and I think when push comes to shove, and you know, she makes the decision that she does, I'm trying to be quite vague, I think she surprises herself with that. So yeah, it was, all in all, it was a really great experience. It was extremely collaborative, and walking away was very fulfilling. It was super fulfilling, and I learned so much, not only about myself, but like the way I work, and you know, kind of learning to just take things on the chin and just, you know, you do your homework, you can do all the preparation that you want at home, but, you know, nothing prepares you for what happens in the moment. Like, you got to be prepared for the unexpected, I guess, and learn how to just sort of, you know, digest that on the spot and just be present and work with your scene partner. And I think that's really when the magic happens. Yeah.
Being prepared for the unexpected Millie Gibbons, and in that short film called The Liars of Black Mountain Road, you're portraying the character of Abby. And to come back to the storyline, it follows a couple driving through a desolate stretch of Castaic in California, when they hit a stranger's dog named Molly. And that moment becomes a mirror they cannot look away from, exploring the gap between what is said and what is done.
Exactly. Yeah, it really highlights these two people who have completely different perspectives, and it's sort of, you know, it's this competition almost. It turns into this competition, competing for the moral high ground on, you know, when disaster strikes, you know, how different people deal with it, and, you know, sort of erupting that inner conflict, and, you know, especially in relationships, like how different people deal with it and how that can take a toll on relationships. Yeah.
That situation, Millie Gibbons, can take a toll on that couple relationship. And I would love to know more about the lessons that experience taught you, as well as the process filming in the middle of those windy and sunny days?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't really spent a lot of time in California, let alone going out to, let alone going out to Castaic. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but I remember Nolan or Parker would pick me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we would sort of, because call time would be at like 6 or something, so we'd drive like a couple hours north of LA and go to this place, Castaic, which is literally, it's beautiful, it's desert, it's super cool, but it's like literally in the middle of nowhere. So filming in such a setting as like the mountains of Castaic. I mean, I think Parker and Nolan actually when they went scouting for the location, they like went down this random road. It didn't really have any road signs, and it just took them like, because I remember when we went down there, we went miles before we actually got to where we were situated, where camp was like based. So the fact that they found it was pretty awesome, but it was so isolated. So it really helped. It definitely influenced our performances. I mean, it was hot too. I remember, I don't know how much it was in Fahrenheit. I'm a Celsius girl, but I remember we would like start filming super early because we'd be worried about the sun. And by the time we got to like the afternoon, like 2 o'clock, the sun would literally be beating in our face. Like, oh my God, it was like 35 degrees or something Celsius. So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it was hot basically. So yeah, we were dealing with that. But I don't know, it helped the performance, I think. I believe it really, this couple, they're on a road trip and they're in the middle of nowhere. And I think it really heightens the tension of like the situation of what they've got to, how they deal with this, like where they are, there's no help. They really have to like, sort it out themselves. And I think, being in that environment really influenced what was going on in our performance. So yeah.
If I understood correctly, Millie Gibbons, we are both in the Celsius team.
And we are. Love it.
As a matter of fact, the assembly of theater goers all around the world are going to be captivated by the opening scene, with the camera sitting at the back of the car that stopped unexpectedly in the middle of the road, and that strong impact is visualized by a gold necklace hanging from the rear view that moves back and forth.
Yep, yes it does. And I remember having to like, before we called action, I always had to like gently remember to like push the necklace just so it looked good. I should get a credit for that. But yeah.
Absolutely, Millie Gibbons. I knew that you were the one pushing that necklace, and most of the dialogues are occurring inside that car. How did you communicate with director Parker Hendrick Croft during those scenes?
So a lot of what people won't know is Parker was actually in the car with us. So he would sit in the back of the car with Chris, who was pulling focus, and I can't remember I think it might have been Aaron doing sound or someone. People were in the car with us. So it was this very intimate, silent moment. But, if you like zoomed out and saw everyone else, that like what it takes to make a movie, everyone's with us in the car. It's quite funny. No, Parker was fantastic at like, he really emphasized the importance of silence, and like, he really wanted everyone around us to respect like that we needed space to kind of like create this emotional distance between our characters, because there were moments where we struggled for sure when it came to like just like those intimate moments where there's less words and more subtext, which for me is much more compelling and so much more interesting as a viewer, which I think is super clever that, you know, Parker is like nailing that on the head now, because he really like, I don't know what the word is, but like he was really able to like direct that energy into like those rough nitty gritty moments. He really like was able to help us guide where we were going without giving us too much. Like he didn't overload us with information or anything like that. It was super subtle, which was really cool. But yeah.
In definitive, Millie Gibbons, you were and you worked under the direction of Parker Hendricroft, but you were also under, as you just mentioned, the microphone of Aaron Golden and his award-winning sound production company, Blue London Audio.
Yeah, Aaron's awesome. Working with Aaron was super cool. It's my first time meeting him, and he was just he was a great guy to be on set, but he was awesome to work with too. So yeah, it was a cool experience.
Additionally, Millie Gibbons, the premiere of The Liars of Black Mountain Road is coming soon at Cinequest on March 14 at the California Theater in San Jose, and screening a few days after on March 16 and 20 at the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema. What are you the most curious to discover when you watch it for the very first time?
Oh, that's such a good question. Do you know what I'm really curious about? The comedy, because I wasn't expecting to have that sounds really silly to say I wasn't expecting to have as much fun as what I did. I was expecting to have fun, but I didn't think the context itself was going to be as fun as what it was. And there were moments that were really surprising when like we couldn't contain laughter in some of like the most intimate moments. And then I caught wind that someone had said that apparently one of the songs we were using, I don't know if I can say what it is, but like one of the songs that they're using is quite comical. So I think I'm going to be quite surprised about how funny it might be. I don't know. But yeah, just all of it. I have no idea what to expect. I called Nolan a few months ago and I said, you know, how's the movie looking? You know, what can you tell me? Because I don't know anything. I've been left in the dark. And he was like, yeah, you know, we've made some changes. I think you're going to be quite surprised. And I was like, great, that gives me nothing. So they've literally, they have not told me anything. They want me to be surprised, which is quite sweet. So, I don't know. All I know is that I need to book a flight because I still have not done that yet. So I need to book a flight ASAP because everyone's going up and it will be really fun to be back with everyone. I haven't seen them for a while. So, yeah.
Absolutely, Millie Gibbons. And all I can also add is that I was also surprised and I almost jumped out of my chair at a particular moment that you will discover next to and with the 1,122 seats that are in that California theater in San Jose, with more particularly 687 seats in the orchestra and 435 seats in the balcony.
Well, I did not know that. I thought it was like a small... Wow, I really need to do some homework. Wow. I'm probably going to need a gin and tonic before that then. Hopefully I did a good job. We'll see.
Furthermore, Millie Gibbons, your character Abby may inspired Ethan to write a novel as a way to confess his feeling that feels very different from Thomas, the narrator in your previous short film, Laura, who tries to avoid daydreaming about Laura.
Wow, that's so cool. I didn't know you had found that. That's very impressive. Yeah, I think it's Laura by Henry Truett-Harshaw was a super awesome short film that I did a few years ago. That was my first, probably like one of my first ever short films that I've done back in, I think it was like 2019. And yeah, it was the person who plays Thomas, Christopher Cortez, is one of my best friends still to this day. I had a coffee with him the other day. He's awesome. And no, it's very different. The characters, I mean, Thomas was doting over this woman that he didn't know who she was. And I think at the end it's left open-ended because you don't really know who she is. He makes up this idea, this fantasy of who she could be, and he writes about it, and he tries to urge himself to like go over and speak to her, but he can never like pluck up the courage. Only in his writing does he ever actually meet her. But even then we don't know if it's real or not. And super different to Ethan, obviously, because I think, you know, I don't know, I think the whole idea of like honesty is challenged across, I don't know, both like what's real and what's not, I think is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but they are very different.
That short film, named Laura, is very different from the layers of Black Mountain Road, and I would love to discuss about it because you worked in that project written and directed by Henry Truett-Harshaw, and you did a very unique early cinema and silent area style scene with your peer Christopher Cortez Adams. Can you tell us a little bit more about that scene in black and white?
Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the camera that they used, but it was an old film camera, and I remember Sam Romero, the DP, he would have, every time we were ready to film, he would have to like wind it up, and then we'd only get like 10 seconds of film. So it was very like on the spot. We had to like nail it first time. But it was super cool. It was sort of, we did like a part of one of the things that Thomas had written in this fantasy about this woman, Laura, who we don't even know if that's her real name, was this 1920s sequence of like a scenario where she had spilt coffee on her dress and hysterically started throwing a tantrum. And Thomas, you know, has this fantasy that, you know, he has a hanky in his pocket and he goes over and he helps clean it up for her, and then they meet and they fall in love. And yeah, it was an awesome thing to shoot on the camera, which I do not know what it's called because that is something that I need to learn. But it was definitely a really cool sequence, and everyone on set everything was like placed perfectly because we didn't want to waste too much roll or like time, and it was a lot of winding up, and you know, so yeah, it was a really cool sequence to have, and I think Henry nailed it pretty well, so yeah.
This is a very unique sequence, Millie Gibbons, and the story is all about a writer in a coffee shop that struggles with his work while daydreaming about a girl across the room. And in definitive, Laura is actively distracting the narrator from his creativity as she is mastering the art of division.
Wow, you nailed it. Yeah, someone should write that down because you said that beautifully. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's all about this fantasy versus reality, which I think is sort of captured in the lives of Black Mountain Road as well. the idea of someone versus who they truly are, and what is revealed to us when reality hits, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely, Millie Gibbons. And I mentioned the words art of division because this is a feature film in which you played Officer McBride. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and about your powerful quote? You have ID. This house is running an illegal hotel.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, so I think probably when I'd first left drama school, I'd just gotten my OPT visa, so it allowed me to work, and I was, scrambling for auditions, and, I would look at and do as much as I possibly could, and I came across this Art of Diversion, this movie, this audition on Backstage, and I went in originally for the lead role, which I wasn't suitable for, and then they gave me this, actually I think they wrote it in, and that's why they called it Officer McBride, because it was, a little bit of a tap to me being British. So they created this character of this officer that walks in and sort of busts this, I think it's a drug house, I think it was, but it was probably one of my first times on a set playing an American role as well, which was a lot of pressure because, I think, that's something that I'm always conscious of. I don't want people to know I'm English if I'm doing an American role. And it was funny because I'm 5'4" and I was 19 years old playing a scary cop, and it was just, I don't know, I think no one could take me seriously because it was so funny that someone so small and so small was playing this big scary officer. I don't even know where you found that. That's so interesting. I would love to see that. But that was really cool working on that set because I'd never worked on a set as big as that before, and that was really cool, especially at such a young age, and straight out of drama school as well. That was interesting.
As a matter of fact, Officer McBride has redefined the way officers enters private home, and I would love to explore your journey that flourished from the ceremonial county of Suffolk in England. Can you tell us a little bit more about those early days, being one of the few people who knew the number of sheep in that region, because you were cold calling farmers to ask them insightful questions?
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I left school at 18 and I wasn't sure whether to pursue acting or to get a consistent job. I don't know. And I was so confused whether to go to uni or whether I really wanted to actually, go all in and pursue what I actually really have always wanted to do. And my parents were super supportive, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a year out, earn some money and see what that's like. And anyway, the only job that I had any qualifications for was working at a cold call centre, cold calling farmers from 9 to 5. And I think day in, day out, I would probably call over 300 people. I'd probably only get to speak to 6 of them because most of them didn't answer or just didn't want to talk to me, and that was fair enough. But eventually when I would get speaking to them, the reason why I would call them was because we had we were curating a monthly newsletter based on farming in the UK, and we were collecting information in order to help suggest, like, give advice to people who were farming, like what fertilizers everyone was buying. So similar to like Farmers Weekly, which is like a popular magazine. I don't really know much about it. But my sisters in agriculture were very different. Yeah, so I started doing this job, and I remember in the office on my first day, I'd been given this project, and I had to speak to as many people as possible and get as many complete calls. And it involved calling people up and saying, "Hi, this is Millie Gibbons from the something of agriculture, and I was wondering if you are interested in a Marks and Spencer's gift voucher today of £60. And they would be like, "What's the catch?" And I'd be like, "Actually, I don't know. There's no catch. It's just you got to tell me how many sheep you've got on your farm." And I'd go through all these lists of questions, and it would be like, "How many hectares of winter wheat do you have, and how many, if you have livestock, what livestock do you have, and how many?" And I remember the one thing that really threw me starting that job was one farmer told me, the first farmer that ever told me this, he was like, "I've got 1.5 sheep. I've got 1.5 sheep." And I was sat there in my chair laughing because I thought he was like pulling my leg, so to speak. But actually it's a farming term that you times the like hectares or acreage by 1.5, and that gives you an estimate of like how many sheep they had on the farm. Anyway, if anything, my mother said that it improved my telephone manner. So, time is not all wasted. So it was an experience, but it definitely pushed me to, think, okay, what do I really want to do with my life? Because I can't sit here cold calling farmers who don't want to speak to me for the rest of my life. And that's when I started auditioning for drama schools. And one of my best friends, Marcus, he actually sent me this drama school in New York, and he said, "I really think you should give this a go." And I was like, "Oh, New York, like, no chance. Like, someone from the middle of nowhere in the Suffolk countryside is not going to get into like some of the big schools in London, let alone an incredible school over in New York, and like, how's that going to work?" And he was like, "Just give it a go. They're having auditions next week in London, like, go down." So, I went over to my manager at the Cold Call Centre, and I was like, "I think I've got to go to London next week, so I've got like an audition or something." And she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." And they were super lovely about it. So I took some time off work and went down to do all these auditions. And I remember I found out that I'd gotten in and been offered a scholarship to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts here in New York. But I was waiting on hearing back about another audition for Central St. Martin's in London, which was my top choice. I dreamt of going to Central since I was very young. And I remember the morning of my audition, I had been sick all night, basically. And I woke up extremely unwell, and I had to phone them and ask if I could reschedule my audition. And they told me it was the last round. Like, we can't reschedule it, essentially. So that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, then, the universe works in weird and wonderful ways, and perhaps this is a sign that I need to accept the offer to New York and put on my big socks and, book a plane ticket. And that's exactly what I did, and moved over to New York at 19, didn't know anyone, I had no family here. It was really scary, it was very daunting, but it was equally exciting. And I had the best experience. I met some fantastic people, worked with some amazing acting teachers. And yeah, I did 3 years at the academy and then graduated, worked towards getting my visa so I could stay here, got that, and then yeah, just started, the rough and tumble of that journey of becoming an actor and what it really takes. And I think it's extremely thrilling. It's very inconsistent, humbling, but rewarding at the same time. And I think you learn a lot on this journey, not only about yourself, but like, just, it's like, I guess you just learn a lot about yourself and who you are, and, the importance of being motivated. And I think, if you really, in any area of life, of whatever you choose to do, it doesn't matter. Like, if you really care about something and you're really passionate about it, I really believe that anything is possible, and you can make something of yourself, if you really work hard for it. And that's what I'm convincing myself to keep on doing, because, all the hard times, weigh out when the good comes. I don't know, what do they say? My dad told me something interesting recently. He said the oh, I'm turning into like a guru all of a sudden. But like, no, my dad said something super interesting. He was like, the low lows will pass, like they're only temporary, and you know, the highs are just coming. Everything is like a pendulum, so to speak. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, you know, you can have one day on an incredible movie set and you're like, oh, this is, you know, this is why you work as hard as you do through all the rejection, and you know, you got to get up every day and keep going. And you know, I'll be on a set like of this incredible movie that I actually have upcoming, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about soon anyway. But you can be on this big set, and then the next day it's like, okay, back to square one, back to auditioning, self-taping from like my bedroom in my apartment. And you know, it's never really, I don't know, it's there's a lot of beauty in it because it's a journey, and it's a really interesting, it's a very fun, interesting whirlwind of a journey that teaches you a lot about yourself. And you know, it's humbling for sure, and your support system is very important, and I'm very grateful that I have a great support system. But yeah, the journey is still going, so I don't know where it's going, but we'll see. And I'm excited for what's to come, and I'm excited for this year. And yeah, I don't know if any of that is like I feel like maybe I should just go and like get a pen and paper and journal or something. Just like maybe a therapist.
The journey is still going, and everything is possible, Millie Gibbons, because you always had a passion, knowing that you were a creative at heart, but not knowing exactly how to pursue it. And taking classes in New York was part of that process, more specifically on 20 Madison Avenue at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, in which you got the opportunity to play and sit next to Tom Koch dressed as a goat in the play called The Wonderful World of Dissocia, directed by Jose Zayas.
Now that's a play. That was a fantastic play. That was one of my last plays at the Academy, and it was sort of similar to Alice in Wonderland, but a much more vulgar scale. And I remember it was exhausting. I remember being on stage for like 2.5 hours playing Lisa, and she goes through this world of dissociation, and it's switched with reality. So like the first half was her living in this wonderland, in her wonderland, which is a dissociative disorder, which is it's an illness. And so learning a lot about that was really interesting. But then the second half was the reality of like when she's not on the drugs, on the medication, and you know, she's hit with this reality of these hard truths of what's going on around her, and her world's falling apart, and she has this addiction to dissociating. But the play itself was interesting. It was tough. My family came out to visit, and I remember still looking back at photos and I just look exhausted in it. But it was the type of exhaustion that feels so good, because I don't know, there's no feeling like being on stage really as an actor and living a life of stepping into someone else's shoes and getting to walk a mile in their life basically. And it was very interesting. But yeah, that was a long time ago. Wow. I can't believe you found that. That's so interesting. That's very impressive. But yeah, Jose was a fantastic director. He was so kind, and you know, he would always answer any questions I had. And I remember the first opening night walking out of the theatre, and a lot of my friends who were at school with me, they were all just there staring at me like very confused, and I thought, oh gosh, have I done something wrong? And if you're not familiar with the play, it just, a lot of the themes that it deals with are quite a little bit like a little bit, they are very quite traumatic. And so I think some of what we were exploring was quite difficult for people. So coming out, you know, you've just finished the show and you're like, you walk out and you're like, woo! And everyone's there like, not really sure how to digest what they've just seen. And so that was, I remember going back, I spoke to the director and the director of the company. I remember calling her up, Barbara Rubin, and I said to her, I was like, hey, Barbara, like, I think, you know, I feel like my confidence has been knocked a bit because, you know, a couple of people came up to me afterwards. I remember someone came up to me and they were like, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to be a part of, you know, this play? Like, it's so distressing and it's extremely traumatic. Like, why would you do this? And I remember going home and thinking, oh God, I'm doing something wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. And Barbara reminded me, she was like, this is exactly what art is about. Art is challenging, and art is supposed to face us like this. And yeah, and she just gave me the confidence to go into the second night, and she was like, you just got to take it on, you know, this is what art is about. You know, not everyone's going to like it, not everyone's going to enjoy what they're seeing, but telling stories, you know, you've got to tell every single story that you can, and, you know, they're not all going to be happy endings, and are they? So yeah, it was tough, but it was so fun, and it was a great experience and extremely challenging. And I actually, like, thinking about it now, it makes me miss being on stage and being in a theatre, which I haven't done for a little bit, which I should get back to. But yeah, that was an experience.
That was an experience, Millie Gibbons, because art is challenging. And you also step foot in Actors Gym New York, an environment where you cross paths with actress and two-time alumna Kira Leroux, forming together the Gibbons-Leroux pair, an entirely unofficial association with mildly exaggerated cultural ambitions.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I didn't know Kira. I've met Kira a couple times before, and I was like, oh, why do I recognize her? Like, I remember looking at her face, she's gorgeous and she has beautiful hair. And I remember just staring at her across the room thinking, why do I know her? Like, am I friends with her? Did I go to school with her? And then it clocked for me that she's in Firefly. She's done incredible things, but she was in Firefly Lane, which was on Netflix, which was one of my favorite shows a few years ago. And I remember being like, going up to her, like one of her biggest fans, like, oh my God, I've seen you in Firefly Lane, like, you're incredible, so funny. And she was like, oh my God, that's so funny, you know that. But yeah, she's brilliant, and getting to see her and meet her was really cool. And there's just, the Actors Gym itself it's run by Bobby Moresco, and just the talent in that room is like, it hits you like a brick wall when you walk in. And sharing a space with artists from all kinds of different backgrounds and, you know, generations. It's been like going there, it's kind of like a sacred community of like, you walk into this room and it's very experimental. Like, people are bringing in work that they're you know, working on, and they want honesty, and, you know, it's a safe space. And to be able to witness that and be a part of something so that feels so magical and sacred it's really cool. And being part of that process and getting to see writers developing their work and actors working on monologues for things, and auditions. It's a great environment to be in as, you know, as an artist.
The Gibbons-Leroux pair, an unofficial association, is a safe place. And as you look ahead, what kind of stories do you hope to explore as an actress in the future? And I would also love to add a date, which is August 7 of 2026.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of roles, Oh, just real raw stories, I think. That's something, you know, anything that I want to do, I want to be able to create something honest and truthful. You know, I don't really have anything specific. I just want to be able to approach my work as truthfully as I possibly can. August 7th, 2026. I have an upcoming movie, which was probably one of the biggest movie sets that I've been on, with Will Gluck, his new upcoming romantic comedy film starring Monica Barbaro and Callum Turner, One Night Only. I had the pleasure of playing in a small speaking role, but it was a great experience working with a fantastic, incredible director, and, you know, people that you look up to. And so August 7th, that's going to be in cinemas, which will be really cool. You know, if you go, you might see me. Don't blink, because you might miss me. But yeah, so that's really exciting. I'm excited for that.
In conclusion, I am looking forward to witness One Night Only without ever blinking during the feature film, as well as the Gibbons Morgue at the Cinequest Film Festival, in which the liars of Black Mountain Road will prove once again that shame turns honesty into a weapon and silence into the final verdict. Thank you very much, Millie Gibbons.
Oh, Victor, thank you so much for having me.